MixTape, a game that got 10 out of 10 according to IGN, and a 4.99 out of 5 according to Cuphead Dean Takahashi. Now I'm going to spend the majority of the video talking about how MixTape is being held to a standard that it didn't sign up for, and how it's being criticized for something it was not supposed to be. I'll give an analogy. Imagine comparing truck simulators to a game like Counter-Strike. Now most of you will say, that's very unfair and it's unreasonable to compare the two. Why? Because truck simulators are, simulators, and Counter-Strike is a first-person shooter. First-person shooters are typically judged based on how action-packed they are, the weapons available, and the win mechanics. Whereas simulators are typically judged based on how they compare to their real-life counterparts. The judgment metric is different. Whereas it's something like MixTape, some might call it an interactive movie. I mean, if I have to put it in the category, I'll put it in the category of an interactive movie. Not exactly in the game category. Sure, the same thing can be said about simulators, but that's not the topic we're discussing right here. Now imagine if someone like Dean Takahashi, the game journalist who couldn't make it very far in the game Cuphead, gave MixTape a 4.99 out of 5, an almost perfect score. You can kinda infer that MixTape's gameplay may not be groundbreaking, or just that having skills in gaming may be an optional afterthought at this point. Which brings me to the video by It's a Gundam. I mean, if you like this video, go check him out. MixTape, another perfect 10 game no one plays. So let's see what does It's a Gundam have to say about this game.
Gaming becoming mainstream was a mistake. What was once a hobby for the outcasts of society, for people passionate about storytelling, but couldn't afford to make a film, there was gaming. The evolution of tabletop role-playing games allowed for the medium that has inspired us and shaped us all. Even games journalism was fun and enthusiastic. Every aspect of gaming was a club, and you were in it. It was a hobby geared towards its core audience entirely. It truly was a golden age looking back now. But alas, we are now in the digital dark age. Gone are magazines with attractive women in the ads, focused on hyping good times. No longer will you play games like Rumble Rose and get an unexpected boner. Now it's failed news journalists begrudgingly working as gaming journalists, rotating through the usual dog-water publications like a game of musical chairs, mixing in activism, gender politics, while the authors themselves, who paint gamers as nothing short of homunculi, look like creatures from the island of Dr. Moreau. The projection is as strong as a DSP stream. In the wake of Anita Sarkeesian and Gamergate, we have never rebounded, nor shall we ever go back to the halcyon days of gaming. Now we are in the Nepo baby activist hellscape that seems to permeate every bit of pop culture and entertainment these days.
And now a word from our sponsor.
You ever
Please
Yeah, I skipped the ad plug over there.
itself. Hands free. There's no game here. Hands free. You don't even have to play it.
It's a Gundam.
He's sexy without knowing he's sexy, and that's really sexy.
MixTape is an indie game, and I use the term lightly, that I ignored because I wasn't the target audience for it, but it was an anomaly. While most indie games go relatively unnoticed till popular streamers play the game and build an audience off of viral clips and word of mouth, MixTape was championed by gaming media. This made the Depression Quest push look like a lukewarm response in comparison.
You start this game up, and immediately, I'm just infatuated with it. Pretty soon, you won't be listening to music. You'll be listening to who you were. And that, I just got chills saying it.
Hi, gay.
You set in, and that is the thesis statement of this video game. I can't say it's anything but a masterpiece. This, to me, is a 10 out of 10 on the Kind of Funny scale.
This is a 10 out of 10. This is a masterpiece. This is a game that I don't know if there's ever been a game I've played that I'm like, I could recommend this to anybody.
Yeah, from what I'm seeing right now, the game journalists are now asking gamers to hold this game, if you want to call it that, to an unreasonably high standard. They call this game a masterpiece. Now imagine if I told you that the truck simulators are action-packed, fast-paced, and chaotic. Then you actually spend money and buy it, and actually, spend a couple of hours playing it. You'll get mad at me, alright? Why? Because I'm misrepresenting the game for what it is, right? Whereas if I told you the opposite, like, oh, truck simulators are slow-paced, relaxing, and calming, you may not buy it, nor will you spend time with it. But at least we'll have one less angry person somewhere on Earth, alright? Same thing here. They're hyping this mixtape up to be a masterpiece. And let's just say, masterpiece, quote unquote, has a meaning to it, meaning to say, it's kind of like, dude, you gotta play this game, right? If if you are interested in games like this, feel free to play it. Masterpiece is like, dude, even if you don't feel like that thing's gonna call out to you, or that thing connects with you, bro, you gotta play this game, right? That's what they're essentially saying, which means that the people that wouldn't play that game would now hold it to that standard, right? Which is unfair to Mixtape, because Mixtape wasn't supposed to be this quote unquote masterpiece. It was supposed to be a nostalgic callback to a different time, a different era. Yeah, which is unfair to the people who actually enjoy the game. And it's also unfair to the game developers, you know, they developed this game not to be a quote unquote masterpiece, but to be a nostalgic callback, right? So yeah, thanks to the actions of the journalists, there'll be a lot of angry people in the review section of the game.
There's a level of something there in the subject matter that weirdly isn't for me. Like, I'm not connecting with it on as deep of a level as you guys, and it might be era, it might be age, it might be like I did not grow up as a white kid in the 90s, right? Yeah. That said, I still think it's a very special game that I recommend to anybody.
But I'm lying. And I don't know how much longer I can do it.
Skill Up, or as they're better known now, Shill Up, had a very glowing view of Mixtape.
I recommend Mixtape.
But they didn't recommend Lost Judgment.
What? You mother!
And good lord, if you've played any of the Yakuza games and you haven't played Lost Judgment, you're missing out. It's an amazing game. Not recommending that, but Mixtape is absolutely wild.
Do I dare invoke the phrase ethics in journalism in the year of our Lord 2026? We asked Mixtape devs how they made 2026 his highest rated game.
Oh my god, hold on. Dean Takahashi says that this game is great, so pack it up, lads. This is an absolute banger.
We don't review lots of games, but Mixtape is a standout for me. Mixtape is awesome.
For those who don't remember, Dean Takahashi is the dude that couldn't beat the Cuphead tutorial. Yeah, that guy. The one that makes DSP look like Daigo. Across the board, if you looked at any of the ratings for Mixtape, they were nothing short of fantastic.
IGN 10, VGA 10, CGM 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 9, 9, 9.
IGN gave Pragmata an 8 out of 10, and that was one of the better games that have come out in recent years.
Now, that wouldn't be fair to both Pragmata or Mixtape. They belong in two completely different categories of gaming. What IGN is essentially saying is, Mixtape is a better use of your time and money than Pragmata. Now, if Mixtape, an interactive movie, can get a 10, and a Pragmata, an action-adventure game, got an 8, at some point people will start questioning how you quote-unquote judge games. How you decide to award ratings to individual games, right? When a clown enters the castle becomes a circus. Now, if Mixtape, the quote-unquote clown in this case, is rated a 10 on IGN, the castle being the 10 out of 10 rating on IGN, soon a 10 out of 10 rating from IGN will be seen as a giant red flag instead of a great recommendation like it's supposed to be. Hence turning a 10 out of 10 on IGN into a quote-unquote circus. Which is unfair to the other games that you have rated a 10 out of 10, because now people will have reservations about your suggestions, right?
But somehow Mixtape was a perfect game.
IGN gave Lost Judgment a 7. All of these game journalists are criminals. They're domestic terrorists.
The tags for Mixtape are quite delicious. Atmospheric, story-rich, LGBTQ+, female protagonist. That's all I need to give something a 10.
Man, if this game featured trans people, it would have been up for the Nobel Peace Prize. Since I'm on the subject of IGN, Their review of MixTape was met with the same backlash you'd expect being a Mets fan walking into Yankee Stadium.
He stepped on a skateboard outside of a few scraped knees in the summer of 2003, but none of that matters, and MixTape knows this. Australian developer Beethoven and Dinosaur fills each and every moment of its coming-of-age tale with incredible music, perfectly hand-picked to set the tone for its free-flowing chapters in a way only nostalgia can. I find myself coming back to often. This is far from the first video game to tackle the concept, of course, but it might just be the first one to have nailed a tonal balance that hits just right for me. I've tried to enjoy the Life is Strange series more than once, but I've just found its dialogue a little too corny for my liking to fully get into. MixTape, on the other hand, feels more rooted in how actual people talk, and is all the better for it.
This ain't a catastrophe, it's a warning. Daddy, if you trap me here, this will only be the beginnings of my wicked ways. Cause I'm angry and I'm wired and I'm fixing for a whole lot of trouble.
MixTape, on the other hand, feels more rooted in how actual people talk.
Yeah, that's what they got caught saying. Remember Dean Takahashi failing to beat Cuphead? Well, now any reviews from him will be taken with a giant pinch of salt. These individuals, I don't know what his name is, reviews of any future game will also be taken with a giant pinch of salt. Cause look at what he defined as how actual people talk. Right?
IGN was a fluff piece fit for a nepo baby like Hassan Piker, which is ironic. The company that published MixTape is founded by Megan Ellison, a nepo baby director who is the daughter of Larry Ellison, the 5th richest man in the world. He's worth like $250 billion. Anyway, she is known for funding passion projects that most likely lose money, and she has no major role to play in this other than being the CEO of the publishing company. But to say that this game is an indie project with a full soundtrack of licensed music and this much of a media push feels disingenuous.
The amount of licensed music in this and how hard it is to get licensed music in general, like how did you actually pull this off?
Well, we got a music supervisor, and when you get a music supervisor and you tell them, we're making a video game about a girl who wants to be a music supervisor and it has to have the greatest soundtrack of all time. They're like, can we swear on this?
Yeah. Absolutely.
They're like, I'm in. So,
well, he's not exactly answering the question at hand, but sure, if that counts as an answer, sure.
Case in point, MixTape looks a lot like Lost Records' Bloom & Rage, a game that came out a year or two ago, and this game didn't get much of a push.
It came out like a wet fart and everyone forgot it existed.
Anyway, the review from IGN was perfectly seasoned to appeal to the progressive aging millennial, finally hitting the middle-age crisis stage of life.
At Rockford's. But these memories are just so well observed that they come across as universal, as if they could be ripped straight from your teenage Facebook or MySpace page if you're getting on a bit like me.
Indie reviewers and gamers took to Twitter, and they had a totally different view of playing MixTape.
Yeah? There are barely any stakes here at all. No character goes through any sort of hardship. Every character is just kind of an asshole because they want to be, especially the main character. Oh my god, I hate this main character. She's this annoying, pompous, self-important loser who thinks she's too cool to do anything other than be a rebel and skateboard and listen to her epic music. Her entire identity revolves around her being really into insanely niche music from the 60s and 70s. And look, I get it, the game's called MixTape and it's about music. But when the 20th song comes on and you hear her go, yep, this song was made in the 70s when everyone was high all the freaking time, it stopped becoming charming really quickly and just got grating.
This is The Drunk Flamingo by Abraham Zimmer.
Oh my god, shut up.
So they bought all the licenses to those music, and that's how they use it in-game. I can't think of a clumsier way to use copyrighted music than this. You know those dancing games, like Just Dance, where you have to hit the notes on point? Those would be a better use of those licensed music than whatever this is, alright?
Explaining why I personally hate MixTape in just 3 minutes of totally uninterrupted gameplay.
So, in this cutscene, we're just going to... Oh, by the way, we're going to ignore this. I'm not going to be pressing a single thing. I'm just going to be ranting, as you can see. So, So this is a very pivotal part of the story where you're about to save your friend from their cop dad, or what little story there is anyway. I say this, but I don't feel anything. Mostly because there's absolutely virtually no character insight. You've seen some Family Guy cutaway gags of the gang hanging together, but also I don't need to do anything. I'm not pressing anything. She just keeps running. There's no consequence. She's gonna make it regardless. I should be like, oh, my heart is pumping, but no. Interactivity can make a mid-story better. But this game does not understand that, because it doesn't want to be a game.
Yeah, the quote-unquote interactivity seems to me like just a time-saving measure. Like, hit this button if you don't want to spend time in a replay loop. You know, like the skip cutscene button in most games where you can just skip to the fun part of the gameplay. It feels like that sometimes with this game. You're just hitting a button so you don't waste time in a replay loop.
This is a game. This is how most of the game functions. And not only that, you've got to focus on the fact the background going at 60 frames per second and the character is going at a janky frame rate that makes it look like she's running on 989 ms ping. And she keeps going. Still not pressing anything. She's still going. I'm still not pressing anything. It's just like all these set pieces and all these moments where your input means absolutely nothing.
MixTape also sent out one of the nicest press kits I've ever seen since the launch of Fallout 4 and Fallout 76. And admittedly, I probably wouldn't mind having this thing myself just for the CD player alone. Which begs the question, how do they have this kind of money for such a lavish and extravagant press kit for big and small content creators? Bethesda being able to do something like this makes total sense. They've made billions of dollars and they have massive IPs that are huge in the cultural zeitgeist. But a company I've never heard of having this kind of promotional money seems suspect. And netizens were picking up on the marketing push.
They were also screaming Zionist pig, but we're just gonna gloss over that for now.
I hate my negative about content here, but this is an actual industry plan. It's okay to like this sort of game, but how it's presenting itself hurts actual indie games. Real licensed music, massive array of custom assets, and cutscenes. Fully voiced too, insanely pricey press kits sent out to small and big content creators. It presents itself as indie. This is not an indie title, this is a refined product that was made for millions. Most likely a medium-sized team of 12 to 30 full-time for years. This kind of low-hanging fruit stealing plus indie labeling hurts actual small dedicated teams of real game devs. There will be an actual indie dev that misses out on awards this season because this extremely well-funded AA title masqueraded as an indie title.
Sounds.
Yeah, when a clown enters a castle, he doesn't become the king. The castle becomes a circus. You see how MixTape is being in categories it doesn't belong to? Like, people are doubting the fact that it's an indie game.
Like you're a bigot, Sterling.
Of course, there would be pushback for people calling MixTape anything but a masterpiece.
MixTape is coming under fire for not having gameplay, which just isn't true. Multiple players have posted examples of which, while the game prompts for inputs, the player actually doesn't have to press a single button.
This article is the weirdest bit of damage control I've ever seen. It might have been smarter to write nothing at all, but then maybe the author was hoping people would rage click it just to argue or leave a comment.
From my time with the game so far, MixTape has a lot of these quick moments from making slushies.
There's this one mini game where you just fill up a slushy cup and then you just put in one flavor and they're still like, oh, this is my super custom super dish. It's Coca-Cola.
And skimming stones to jumping around in fields and taking photos. Like a MixTape itself, it's incredibly vibe-based and a curated experience which isn't going to be for everyone.
Then what does a 10 out of 10 rating on IGN supposed to mean then? I mean, you called it a masterpiece, right? The label means to us, I mean to almost everyone out there, a masterpiece means it's gonna blow your mind no matter where you come from. Alright? That's what a masterpiece is defined as. Now, according to you, this game is not for everyone. The same can be said for almost every other game out there, like, you know, Truck Simulator. But unlike MixTape, they're honest enough to tell you beforehand that this is what you can expect from the game. So people don't go in with a high expectation of it, or they don't go in at all because it may not appeal to them in the first place. And let's just say they will spend the time to play other games in other genres that actually fit their taste, right? The game journalists portrayed Mixtape as a perfect 10 out of 10. They portrayed this game as an action-packed, fast-paced game. You put those expectations in the heads of gamers. Now you're shocked that they're disappointed that Mixtape doesn't deliver what you tell them to expect from this game. Like, if you just said Mixtape is a slow-paced interactive movie of a group of teens coming of age, I tell you, you'll attract the type of people you want, not the thousands more that you don't want, right? Which is why the reviews section of this game is so toxic, right? Because you have attracted all kinds of people to play this game for some odd reason. Instead of surgically target the people that you actually want to play this game, you went in and just cast the net out, and now you're surprised you got trapped. So yeah.
What the f does that even mean? Vibe-based gaming and curated experience. I'd expect this language from a shitty ad read. Whenever someone uses the word vibe to explain anything, I know it's ass.
Mixtape is like a Telltale game, except a Telltale game would actually allow you to fail. From what I've seen posted online, it's clear that this is just a movie game with a few button prompts, and you get to do a little bit of walking somewhere before the game plays itself. The fact that gaming journalists are treating anyone who has any opinions other than glowing about this game could lead to another Gamergate situation, judging by the reactions of people online I'm seeing. Not to mention, this is another one of those 10 out of 10 games with a peak player count on Steam below 2,300 players. And it's just another instance of the gaming industry telling us all that this game that nobody seems to be interested in is absolutely fantastic. And if you question it, you're part of the problem. You're an angry chud. You are a conservative. You're everything that's wrong with the world. But where there's smoke, there's fire. Sitting here and telling us that there's nothing there only leads one to believe that there's something there. It's like a video game equivalent of the Epstein files. All the people in power are telling you to shut up and ignore what you see and accept what we tell you. And the gamers are just frankly tired of it. Have we not reached the point of where something that looks like a duck quacks like a duck should be called a duck? But what do I know? At the end of the day, it's not going to sell very well, it's not going to do very well, and it'll probably still get an award at the Game Awards, because that's just how the game is played. Oh well, I'm the hell out of here. Adios, bichachos.
Yeah, this game is being held to a standard that it wasn't supposed to be held to. It's like judging a fish by its ability to climb a tree. We all know a fish is not supposed to climb a tree, right? Now, Mixtape is supposed to be a nostalgic callback through an interactive movie. Now, game journalists called it a 10 out of 10 masterpiece, and let's just say people will judge this game based on that. And mind you, I believe that judging Mixtape as a quote-unquote masterpiece is kind of unfair, because that's not what the developers intended to be, right? But people would still judge it based on that label. When people invariably get disappointed, they'll probably get mad and leave bad reviews and not recommend the game to anyone else, which is kind of counterproductive, right? And oh yeah, at the end of the game, the studio gave acknowledgement to the Wurundjeri people as the traditional owners of the land on which Mixtape was created. Now, the Wurundjeri people are the indigenous people around the Melbourne area in Australia. Now, I don't know where exactly Mixtape the story takes place in, but it's certainly not in Australia. And according to its wiki page, it takes place in Northern California. Which, if you want to acknowledge any tribe, it should be these tribes on screen right now. But okay, maybe I've slightly misread the statement. Maybe it's where the game Mixtape was developed. Now, it's developed by the studio Beethoven and Dinosaur, which is based in Melbourne. Which, okay, fair enough. Now here's a map of the basic territorial boundaries with other nations. I don't know how nations and people interact in the indigenous people and the nations. What do they mean in Australia? But since Beethoven and Dinosaur is based in Melbourne, Wouldn't it make more sense to give acknowledgement to the Walwaruk nation? Also, wouldn't it also make more sense, since this game is supposed to take place in Northern California, to have a studio based in Northern California to develop the game? They are way closer to the location of where MixTape takes place than, say, for example, Melbourne, Australia. Now, I'm not saying that an Australian studio can't make a game that takes place half the world away, but culturally and, from a personal standpoint, having those cultural nuances and understanding those cultural nuances and having personal life experience might bring color to the game. And that's the other parts that, the studio kind of missed out on. But all in all, thanks to game journalists, this game will be held to an unreasonably high standard, and gamers will continue hating this game, not because it's a quote-unquote bad game. Now, I wouldn't exactly call it a bad game, right? If you consider this game to be if you judge this game based on the fact that it's a nostalgic callback to a era not that long ago, sure, it's a very good game. But because the expectation has been inflated by the fact that the game journalist called it a masterpiece, the coming disappointment when the game doesn't live up to their expectations will be massive. And let's just say the blowback will not be pleasant to watch. And it's kind of unfair to the game itself. Alright? And that's all I have for today. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.